Beth Boaz is a former government engineer and project manager who enjoys humor and public speaking. She became a member of Toastmasters International in 1982 and says that and has held various positions, including international director. Beth Boaz says that her father taught her to appreciate humor and laughter and says that Toastmasters has helped her hone it. Beth Boaz has dealt with several health problems in her life, including a chronic autoimmune condition and a broken leg that made her use crutches for 16 months. She says that humor has been an essential part of her recovery and healing journey. Tonight, she'll show how you can apply your humor skills even in times of illness. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Beth Boaz with In Sickness and in Health.
Thank you, Find Your Funny Toastmasters, for inviting me back again. Back in November 2023, I received an email from Marjane. And this is where I was when I received that email. I was in the hospital recovering from my second bout of pneumonia in 6 months. She wanted a last-minute fill-in for less than a week from that date. Well, I knew that wasn't really going to happen. I didn't know if my voice would be working and if I'd be able to stop coughing long enough to give a presentation. But a couple of things were also in Marjane's email. First of all, there was this quote: "This too shall pass. When things are bad, remember, it won't always be this way. Take one day at a time. When things are good, remember, it won't always be this way. Enjoy every great moment." Well, okay, with words like that, I knew that I had to take on the role of a speaker sometime in the future. The other thing that was and I also knew what my topic would have to be. I would have to talk about sickness and humor, how humor helps us cope with and recover from sickness. There was something else in Marjane's email, and that gave me a little bit of concern. It included the list of the past speakers, and it was the mother lode of all expertise on speaking and on humor. There were 2 TEDx speakers. There were 2 accredited speakers. There were 3 certified speaking coaches. There were 3 World Championship of Public Speaking finalists or semifinalists, and 3 World Champions of Public Speaking. That's when I felt a little overwhelmed. Okay, I wrote a book one time. Well, no, I wrote a chapter of a book, but it had to do with dams and dam safety. So that didn't really help my speaking credentials. And I did win my area humor speech contest once about 12 years ago. That's when I knew that I would have to rely on all of you to help me develop this presentation on the fly. I figure you are the experts, and I want to start by asking you, when and why do you use humor in your speeches? I figure you've learned that from all of those great mentors who have gone before. So share some things in the chat or unmute and yell them out. What are the times you use humor in your speeches?
I'm seeing Melanie wanting to raise her hand.
Go ahead.
I was typing in the chat to bring attention and when you need to lighten the mood.
Lighten the mood. I see connect with the audience. Use our ab muscles. We could all use that. Bring attention, lighten the mood. Anything else? Other reasons we use humor? Anytime I can find the funny, be part of the story. turn stress into funny. Don't they say humor equals stress plus time? Make a social commentary. Ooh, deflect. Excellent. Okay, you have learned from all those great speakers who have come before. I'm happy to hear that. Make a good impression. Cool. Well, I had to kind of guess what you were going to say. Because, of course, I am a former or a retired engineer, so I have to prepare in advance. So I predicted that you would say to connect with the audience, ding, 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 energize the audience, provide emotional relief, help the audience remember main points, reassure the audience. Okay, so like when suddenly your audio doesn't work or suddenly the video goes wonky, sometimes it's good to have a little bit of humor after that glitch in order to reassure the audience that despite all appearances, you really are in control. Well, when I looked at why we use humor in speeches, I thought, that could also work for when you're sick. You can connect with the audience, by which I mean you make connections with your healthcare providers, your caregivers. You can reassure the audience. And by the audience, I mean your family members, your friends, your coworkers who are all worried about you. You can actually energize or heal the audience. In this case, the audience is yourself. Because humor, as you've probably learned, has a lot of healing properties, can actually make you less aware of pain, can actually increase endorphins to lower the levels of pain, boost your immune function, all kinds of ways that humor can actually help you to heal. And it can provide emotional relief. Illness can be really grim and depressing. So humor helps you bring lightness into the situation. I couldn't really think of a way that helping the audience remember your main points applied to humor, or applied to when you were sick. So we'll just forget about that one. And what about when someone else is sick? Now, if we call the audience the patient, it's the same things, connecting with them, making them feel a part of things, reassuring them. If you can joke a little bit about it, it must be okay. Helping them to heal, providing emotional relief. I mean, look at those commercials for the COPD drug Trelegy. Just by reconnecting with her book club, that poor woman is healed from COPD in 60 seconds or less. There is one caveat to using humor when someone else is sick. It requires a lot of sensitivity. Depends on your relationship with the patient, how well you can tell. Does it sound like they are sensitive? Are they open to receiving some humor? So it takes a little bit of a lighter touch. As I discussed this with one of my friends who is a communication professional, he said, here's the words that are going to bail you out when you misjudge. He said, if you make a joke and it doesn't go over, you just kind of look at them and go, too soon? Use your best judgment when you're using humor with people who are ill or in pain. Now, I first experienced this when I had my broken leg, and I was in the hospital, and it was during the Olympics, and well, maybe I was on pain drugs, but so I told it could be considered a little inappropriate joke, but keep in mind, it was 20 years ago. I did have a broken leg, so I was about to be long-term sort of disabled, and the Olympics were on. So the story that I told was, all right, so the Paralympics are going on. So I played Name That Sport. Okay, here's the sport. Okay, that's wheelchair basketball. Okay. okay, that's wheelchair volleyball. Went on for a while and then asked, so what's this sport? Ow! 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 It's wheelchair hurdles.
Hurdled.
So that was maybe a tiny bit inappropriate. And I thought, oh, I hope I haven't offended the nurse. And sure enough, only minutes later, she comes running into the room with one of her colleagues. I went, oh, I'm in trouble now. She said, oh, tell her that joke you told. I had established a connection through the use of humor, even though it was maybe not entirely sensitive to the needs of others. But you know, I know that you have heard from all of your many people that have spoken to you that you can never be the hero of your own speech. I had to go out then and find a couple of humor role models. President Ronald Reagan, as you know, there was an assassination attempt on him back in 1981 that resulted in him having a punctured lung with a bullet in it. It was a very stressful, very serious situation, as 3 other people were seriously hurt. But as president, he needed to reassure the nation, his family, his staff, that he was okay. And he did it through humor. His first words to his wife, Nancy, were, honey, I forgot to duck, which he borrowed from the boxer Jack Dempsey, reassuring her that he was okay. To his surgeons, he said, please tell me you're all Republicans, establishing a connection with his healthcare staff. To his daughter, Maureen, the attempted assassination ruined one of my best suits. Again, reassuring his family that he was going to be okay. And to his staff the morning after the surgery, hi, fellas. I knew it would be too much to hope that we could skip a staff meeting this morning, reassuring his staff. Ronald Reagan, role model number 1. Ooh, I forgot to tell you to pay attention because there will be a quiz on how these people used humor. Role model number 2, Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at the age of 29. He did some more acting, and then he took time off from acting to establish his own research foundation for Parkinson's. And Michael J. Fox has always been a big advocate of using humor as part of his recovery. He said hardly a day goes by but what he can't help but laugh at his own inability to do things. He went further than that. He had taken off from acting until Larry David of Curb Your Enthusiasm convinced him to do an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, with the main point being making fun, really, sort of making fun of his Parkinson's symptoms. And the premise of the whole episode was everything that Michael J. Fox would do, he would blame on Parkinson's, even if it was something he was doing to get back at Larry David. He has used his own infirmity and approached it with humor. Now we're going to see how much you were paying attention. What did we learn about how to use humor from those role models? From Ronald Reagan, from Michael J. Fox, anyone? What techniques did they use?
Deflection.
Deflection.
Make fun of themselves.
It was sort of, self-deprecating humor. They were the target of the humor.
They were relieving tension also.
Yes.
Yeah, they always used it to make people comfortable and reconnect with them after,
Yes,
in case they didn't feel comfortable.
definitely. Well, here's some things I came up with. First of all, from Ronald Reagan, a couple of his lines, some I didn't share with you, were borrowed from other people. He borrowed from Jack Dempsey. He borrowed from W.C. Fields. It's fine. The joke I told to my nurse, I didn't make that. I borrowed it from someone else. It doesn't have to be that funny. It just has to be a little lightness to let people know that you're okay with the situation. And using self-deprecating humor. It's not necessarily fair to make fun of anybody else, but you're certainly welcome to make fun of yourself. And that shows people that you're willing to take yourself not so seriously. So how can we inject humor, get it, hypodermic needle, sorry, into our interactions when we're sick or when other people are sick? One is to be there for people in person, by phone, by FaceTime, unless you're driving, say, for example. While I was in the hospital for one of my bouts of pneumonia, I had a group of friends come visit me. And after they left, my nurse said, well, I know you're going to be okay because you have great friends. You can share with people humorous books, TV, podcasts. When I had my broken leg, someone gave me this book of humor from the New Yorker, much better than giving me a medical book about how to heal from a broken leg. Or maybe there's favorite TV shows. Maybe it's Curb Your Enthusiasm or podcasts or music. Any way that you can use to inject humor into the situation. So has this worked for me? It has. A couple, I see I have the red floppy disk, but when I was in the hospital in May of 2023, and the coronation was going on, and I was joking with the nurse about how, well, that's one good part about not being able to sleep is I get to see the coronation. And before I knew it, she came in and offered me a cup of tea so that we could watch the coronation together and drink tea. Leaving the hospital last time I was in, the nurse thanked me for being a ray of sunshine. I was the patient. And most importantly, it's been 6 months since I've had a bout with pneumonia. I consider that a big success. So find your funny Toastmasters. I wish you great health, but if you do experience sickness, or if your friends or family do, I urge you to continue to find your funny. Tom, back to you.
Thank you, Beth.